Delighted to be joined here by Gijs de Jong, the General Secretary of the KNVB, the Royal Dutch Football Association, the Royal Netherlands Football Association. Welcome to Soccerex Europe, or I guess you are also welcoming me here as well. I wonder what it means to host Soccerex here in the Netherlands.
Well, I think for us it's a great privilege to have the Soccerex Europe again for the second time in Amsterdam. We visited it a lot in Miami when we were there, and we liked it a lot. But it's great privilege to have you here and a great honor. And I think every country in Europe wants to have the European edition in his country, so we're very lucky to have it here.
Nice. I listened to your opening address before. Some really interesting points. One of the phrases that you used, which I think is fascinating, is daring to experiment. I wondered what this means for you and for the KNVB in 2025. What does daring to experiment mean?
Well, look, in the end, we are a relatively small country. We have 80 million people, going to 20 in the coming years, but we have to compete with the top 5 leagues, top 5 countries in Europe. I think for us, Spain is probably the most nearby, 3 times as big as we. So if we do everything exactly the same like they do, we will never win. So we try to do things differently, and I think that's part of our culture, to do creative things, to do things differently. We like a little bit of, how you call this, civil disobedience, which I like myself a lot. And even we try to encourage our people in the office to do things differently. So if we agree today that tomorrow everybody will go left when I come into the office, I'm rather sure that when I come in, that the first one which I will see will go right. And if I then say, yeah, but we agreed to go left yesterday, then he will say, yeah, but I think right is better. And in the end, we like it, that you sometimes have the guts to do it differently than we agreed, because that brings new solutions and new ideas.
And in 2025, what are some of those new ideas that you're particularly excited about or you're exploring? What are some of these elements of experimentation that you're looking at here in the Netherlands?
I think now I have to be careful because we're on tape. But I think everywhere it can be either on the pitch with the way you play the game, playing attractive football, playing creative football. It can be off the pitch. It can be in technology. We see a lot of technologies developing, and then I don't mean only AI, but look at the broadcasting technology developing, the performance technology developing a lot. The refereeing technology developing a lot. Imagine if those technologies are going to interact. So things are changing rapidly. The way the fan experience is changing. You see the kids now who like a lot of the urban sports, and we're still playing 2 times 45 minutes on a pitch, 105 by 68. So maybe things will change also towards 2050. We don't know how exactly. We don't think we are going to be the ones deciding how we're going to play, but we do think that we should experiment more to see how we can make the game more attractive, more fair to the future players.
And rather than looking forward then, because I know there's only so much that you can say, what about looking back over the last couple of years? What have been some of the key kind of innovations that we've seen here in football in the Netherlands?
I think you saw a lot on the refereeing side. We were a strong promoter of the VAR. Not everybody's happy with that. We're still, if you see now that there's no elbowing anymore, less diving in the game, less strong fouls on ankles, stuff like that. So the game is becoming more attractive. I think we did a lot in youth football. So in youth football, in the B category, what we call it, we do a lot now with kick-ins instead of throw-ins, with time penalties. So I think that's very strong improvement of the game to bring more fun to the players. So we try to divide between the amateur game and the professional game. And I think we should do a lot more also in the professional game. And so we will try to convince FIFA, IFAB in the coming years to do more experiments on that.
Nice. Congratulations, because your women's team just recently won the Under-17s European Championship. I think the women's game has exploded in the Netherlands over the past 10, 15 years. I wondered what's been kind of key for this development and how important how important that growth in the women's game has been to the Netherlands?
I think what is very important is, of course, that we believe in equality and equal opportunities for both men and women. So to make sure that you don't treat it as a men's game, but treat it as a game for everybody. And there, the Women's Euro in 2017 has been crucial, I think. We won the tournament, but you didn't know that before, of course. But I think what the tournament did is we had a great sportive result, which was amazing. We brought a tournament which was great to watch on television, which was great to experience in the stadium, but which also brought a strong legacy. And that even the men over 50, which I belong to also nowadays, also they don't see the game anymore as a man's game. They see it as everybody's game. And I think what I'm especially also very proud of is that at least until the youth of under 13, we try to play mixed football. So boys and girls together. And I think that also brings in a good competition and a good competitive environment for the girls to become stronger players.
You mentioned before that you mentioned earlier that you are going to be hosting or trying to host the FIFA Under-20 Women's World Cup in 2030, the Under-19 Men's Euros in 2028. I wonder how, as an organisation, you decide on these tournaments that you're going to bid for. Take us through that process a little bit.
Well, as I said before, so one for us is sportive. 2 is bringing a great tournament for the fan experience, and 3 is bringing a legacy. And we think on these 2 items, on the under-19 men and on the under-20 women, that we really can bring a strong legacy. So to really keep both the players, but also the fans closer to us. And we're a relatively small country. Last year, we tried to bid for the Women's World Cup together with Germany and Belgium. Unfortunately, we didn't succeed. But on these ones, I'm quite sure that we're going to succeed and that we're going to make both FIFA and UEFA an offer that will be difficult to refuse.
And I guess because the Netherlands has such a fantastic global reputation for youth football as well and youth development, there's a really good synergy there between you hosting these major youth tournaments as well.
Well, I think so, and I think we also want to do something extra. Of course, it has to be good for football in the Netherlands to bring more boys, girls to play the game. We're still growing. For one of the only sports organizations in the Netherlands to grow, I think this next season we're going to reach more than 1 million active playing. So we have now 1.2 million members, but I think next year we'll go to 1 million who will actively play the game. We want to enhance it in the future, but we also want to make sure that we make the game future-proof and that we make a game which is attractive for future generation. And what I said, a lot are now also attracted to urban sports. We saw at the last Olympics some games which I never expected in my whole life to see at the Olympics, with basketball, 3 against 3, surfing, skateboarding, breakdance, or you should say break today, I think. But I never expected that in my life, but they're there now. And they're very attractive. So we should think maybe how should the game evolve to make sure that we keep the attention and stay attractive to the kids.
One of the things you said earlier was about people tend to say that the Netherlands punches above its weight, but you disagreed with that and you don't like that phrase. Tell me a little bit more about that, why you don't think actually the Netherlands is punching above its weight.
Well, I think we don't punch above our weight, because if you see today, we're top 10 on both the men and the women's side. We just won the Women's Euro under 17. We compete in 4 other Euros in the coming period. And of course, you have to show that every time. But I don't think, well, Croatia is doing a good job, especially on the men's side. Some other small countries, but I don't think if you go back to the number of inhabitants, I don't think there are a lot of countries who are more successful than we are on this. And the Dutch mentality is normally to stay a little bit in between. Sometimes we're a little bit too modest, I think. And sometimes we think we can rule the world, which is also not true. So it has to be something in between. But in the end, in the coming years, we do have to win the World Cup one day, either on the men or the women's side.
So one of the hot button topics in football at the moment is fixture congestion. I wonder where the KNVB stands on that, and whether you're working towards a solution to that, or how does the organisation feel?
Well, I think in the end we should care much about player health and think about that. Uh, Difficult to predict because some people from the club side say it's too many national team games. On the national team side, they say it's too many club games. It's very difficult. I think we should leave this also a little bit to science. Look at the doctors. Look at the physiotherapists. Look at science itself, what is possible to do. And based on that, you should come to a solution jointly between FIFA, FIFPro, the associations, a good solution. But it's not easy. But I think in the end, you should limit the amount of games a little bit because this will be very difficult also for our top players to stay on this level.
I think in a lot of leagues around the world, there isn't always the greatest relationship necessarily between the federation and the leading league of that country. I'm from England, Premier League and the Football Association. It's not necessarily an easy relationship. I wonder how that relationship looks here in the Netherlands between KNVB and Eredivisie. How do those two organizations work together?
Well, let's see how the Eredivisie will answer this. But I think from our side, I think we have a very strong partnership. I think in the Netherlands, people understand quite well that a strong national team and a strong competition, but even more important, a strong amateur landscape is crucial for Dutch football. And only if we cooperate very well, we can compete both on the club team side and on the national team side internationally. If we don't cooperate well, very quickly one of the two will do worse, I think. And I think for the Dutch clubs, like, today here in Amsterdam, Ajax, PSV, Feyenoord, all the clubs, for them, the experience that players get on a national team level is very important. Other way around, for us, PSV and Ajax playing next season in the Champions League is very important for our national team players to get the good experience and to be really in a good shape going to the World Cup. But let's start at the beginning. If there's no amateur game, there will be no new Frankie de Jong. I think we have 1 million active players next season on 80 million people. You can only reach that by having a strong amateur landscape. If we lose that, we lose everything. So we should never forget that it starts all with the amateur game and the amateur landscape.
Looking ahead in perhaps 5-10 years' time, what's your vision for Dutch football?
I think the club struggled quite some time to compete on international level. I think we're back there. I think if you saw our Nations League games with Spain in the quarterfinal, we unfortunately lost in 2 games, but it was really a good game again. I think for the next 5 years we have a very bright future. I think our national team players doing well. So going towards World Cup in USA, Mexico, Canada, going to the Euro in England and in the UK and Ireland, we feel strongly that we can do well there. But also on the women's side, we have a beautiful Euro coming up in Switzerland. We have a strong group with France, England, and Wales. I think it will be difficult to get out of the group, but the teams who will go out of our group, they will do well, I think, and they have the good chance to go to the final. So we feel good. Meantime, we also see that we really have to invest in the amateur game, invest in thinking about keeping the game attractive for future generations, and work hard to compete with the big countries. And maybe one day we get the prize we want.
Final question for you is, we're here in the Johan Cruyff Arena. I just would like to hear your memories of Johan Cruyff and what he means to you.
Look, I said in the introduction, I'm a boy from the south, so a little bit more PSV oriented than Ajax oriented. But I think when it comes to Cruyff, but also when it comes to Ajax, the style of play, the way they played the 74, 78, I think it's close to everybody's heart in the Netherlands. And I think we have a strong pride of the creative football they brought, the revolution they brought in football in those days. For me, there's only admiration for what an incredible man Cruyff was, what he did as a player, what he did as a coach, to the Dutch football. And I think if you see his legacy left, which was also explained by Ronald de Boer at stage, it's incredible. And I think today, the position we are, it all started there. And without Cruyff, we would have never been in this position as Dutch football. No.
Gijs, thank you very much for joining us and for hosting us here at Soccerex Europe.